A major outage across the cloud infrastructure underpinning Britain's financial system could disrupt payments, mortgages, and pension services nationwide. That is not speculation. As of July 13, 2026, Britain's central bank directly supervises Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Oracle as critical third parties to its financial system. Every card payment, mortgage transaction, and pension transfer in the UK relies in part on digital infrastructure operated by a small group of technology providers. The paper trail behind your bank statement runs through data centers most customers never see. For years, Britain's regulators could only reach a cloud provider indirectly. If a bank outsourced its ledger to a hyperscaler, the Bank of England supervised the bank's contract, not the hyperscaler itself. What changes when AI governance finally reaches the infrastructure underneath the banks? The Financial Services and Markets Act 2023 created that direct line, and on July 13, 2026, it activated for the first time. 4 entities now answer to the Bank of England, the Prudential Regulation Authority, and the Financial Conduct Authority. Amazon Web Services, EMEA, Google Cloud, EMEA, Microsoft Ireland Operations, and Oracle Corporation, UK. Sarah Breeden, the bank's deputy governor for financial stability, said dependencies on these firms must be managed so they do not threaten financial stability. Reuters reported that Britain's 4-company list looks narrow next to the European Union's approach, where regulators designated 19 technology and services firms under a comparable framework in November. Yet the new UK regime governs only the cloud layer, the storage and computing power beneath the banks. The systems making decisions on top of that cloud remain almost entirely unsupervised. The Financial Conduct Authority's own July 2026 review, led by Sheldon Mills, states plainly that the regulator is not responsible for wider oversight of AI or model providers. That review found that more than 75% of UK financial services firms already use AI, based on Bank of England data from 2025. Every one of the 4 designated firms is a foreign subsidiary operating on UK soil, which raises a quieter question about who actually controls Britain's financial plumbing. The underlying rules were finalized back in November 2024, more than a year before any company was actually named, taking effect for designated firms on January 1, 2025. Under the new rules, the 4 companies must run resilience tests, complete regular self-assessments, and report major incidents to the 3 regulators. Designation is not the same as full financial authorization. Oversight covers only the systemic services these firms sell into finance, not their global businesses. The balance sheets described at the opening cite on top of exactly these systemic services. HM Treasury retains the power to add or remove designations, meaning today's 4-company list is a floor, not a ceiling. That detail matters for what comes next. Nearly 2 years passed between those rules being finalized and any company actually falling under them, revealing how slowly oversight catches up with concentrated infrastructure. The lag is the story. The Bank of England's own announcement lists exactly what the new powers include. Regulators can now gather information directly from the 4 cloud providers, assess how resilient their systems truly are, and, if voluntary cooperation fails, write and enforce rules specific to each company. That is real authority. Before July 13, 2026, none of that existed for a cloud provider directly. The bank could only lean on the bank customer, never the supplier. So the systemic dependency loop opened at the start resolves here. An outage inside Amazon, Google, Microsoft, or Oracle now triggers direct regulatory intervention, not just a strongly worded letter to whichever bank got caught out. Follow the story 1 layer up, though, and the picture changes. The Financial Conduct Authority's Mills Review, published July 6, 2026, describes hyperscalers as playing a foundational role in the entire AI supply chain feeding financial firms. That review also states outright that value chains built on AI could move beyond the FCA's regulatory perimeter entirely. Sitting with model developers, the regulator does not yet oversee. AI governance inside finance, in other words, currently stops at the cloud layer and does not yet reach the model layer running on top of it. Google Cloud's own spokesperson framed the new UK framework as a way to increase transparency and trust between all parties, according to Reuters. In November 2025, European Union regulators designated 19 technology and services firms under the Digital Operational Resilience Act, more than 4 times the size of Britain's initial list. Both regimes share the same underlying logic. A small number of firms now underpin an entire financial system, and regulators want a direct line to each one. The difference lies in scope, not principle, since Brussels swept in software vendors and technology consultancies that London has, for now, left outside its 4-company list. London chose narrower first steps. The FCA is explicit that its own remit stops at the edge of retail financial services, leaving international coordination on AI providers to bodies such as the Digital Regulation Cooperation Forum and the Competition and Markets Authority. None of those bodies currently designates AI model developers the way the Bank of England now designates cloud providers. The open question left dangling here is simple. If cloud counts as critical infrastructure, why doesn't the AI model running inside it? The model layer stays unwatched. The result is a regulatory map with one border clearly drawn around cloud infrastructure, and no border yet drawn around the AI systems that increasingly run on top of it. Every safeguard now written into the critical third parties regime, from resilience testing to incident reporting, applies to the servers themselves, not to the algorithms making lending, pricing, or fraud decisions on those servers. That is the gap. It is also where the next question in this story begins. The regulatory blind spot opened earlier resolves into a specific, dated fact. As of July 2026, no UK regulator designates an AI model developer as a critical third party, only cloud infrastructure providers. That is not an oversight. It is a boundary regulators drew on purpose. So how do the two regimes actually compare? Britain's critical third parties framework, built under the 2023 Act and first applied on July 13, 2026, covers 4 cloud entities and nothing above them in the AI stack. The European Union went wider. Brussels named 19 technology and services firms under that regime in November 2025, a list 4 times London's length. Though still aimed at infrastructure, rather than the AI models running on it. Here is the mismatch worth sitting with. More than 75% of UK financial firms already used AI as of the Bank of England's 2025 data, while only 4 companies carry any legal designation as critical to that system in 2026. AI governance, measured this way, is chasing a technology that arrived years before the paperwork did. A firm using a shared foundation model for lending, fraud checks, or pricing sites inside the FCA's Consumer Duty and Senior Managers regime. Yet the model itself sits outside every one of those frameworks. Accountability stops at the vendor contract. The sovereignty question opened earlier resolves the same way. The 4 newly designated entities are UK-registered subsidiaries of American parent companies, so the regulation reaches British soil without reaching American headquarters. The balance sheets from the cold open. Then, sit on servers this framework can inspect, running models this framework cannot. None of this makes the 4 cloud providers newly regulated financial institutions. Designation is oversight of resilience, not authorization to operate as a bank, insurer, or investment firm. A distinction the Bank of England stated explicitly when the regime began. Scope, not status, is what shifted. HM Treasury can still add further companies to the list, meaning the 4 named this month function as a floor, not a ceiling, and the boundary around AI models could move the same way. Whether it does move at all in the coming year is now a political choice, not a technical one. None of this means Amazon, Google, Microsoft, or Oracle has failed at anything. Designation is precaution, not punishment. The Bank of England was careful to frame the new powers as proportionate, built to reduce risk rather than to police it after the fact. Critics of extending oversight further, into AI models themselves, argue that regulating a technology this early could freeze innovation the UK is trying to attract, a concern the Mills Review itself raises when it asks how the FCA can keep supporting growth and competitiveness. Is a lighter touch actually the safer one here? The FCA's own position, published July 6, 2026, is that it does not want new prescriptive AI rules yet, preferring its existing outcomes-based framework, a stance the regulator may revisit once its Mills review recommendations reach the FCA board later this year. That preference could change. Competition regulators are watching a related but separate question: whether the concentration among cloud providers amounts to an antitrust problem, not just a resilience one, an inquiry the Competition and Markets Authority has pursued on a different timeline than the Bank of England's. Put the resilience story and the competition story side by side, and a pattern appears. Both point toward the same handful of American companies sitting underneath a British financial system that likes to describe itself as sovereign. Sovereignty and dependence coexist uneasily. Whether that discomfort produces new rules for AI models, the way it eventually produced rules for cloud infrastructure, remains genuinely unresolved as of this recording. The 75% AI adoption figure comes from Bank of England research published in 2025, a measurement a year old by the time the cloud rules took effect, and adoption has likely moved since. The Mills Review's recommendations on regulatory perimeter and AI providers are not yet final policy. They go to the FCA board this summer, before any rule changes could follow. Nothing here is finished business. Other jurisdictions are not standing still either. The European Union's wider Digital Operational Resilience Act list suggests Brussels may already be asking the model layer question that London has only just started to raise. Picture that outage from the opening again. 4 companies, one country's financial plumbing, and a regulator that can finally ask hard questions of the plumbing itself. That part finally has a watchdog. The part running on top of it, the models deciding who gets a loan or a payout, still does not. That is the analytical verdict as of this month. Infrastructure earned a supervisor before intelligence did, and the gap between the two is where the real risk now sits. AI governance in UK finance, as of July 2026, covers the pipes and leaves the water largely unexamined. The next designation will show which matters more: facts over fear.